Hello, welcome back to the channel. So this is talking about my Brunswick detachment I've made for Epic Battles, Napoleonics, Waterloo. So why did I end up doing Brunswick? Well, we had a big, large multiplayer event on the 18th of June using the Epic Battles. There was about 16 of us and we had 10 starter boxes. Now my main focus is the French, and I painted up lots of stuff for the French. But I also have a British and Allied army. You've probably seen as part of British Week for my Epic Battles, me showing off and talking about my British. Now, one of the Allied commanders had been working on the Dutch Belgians, so I didn't need to worry about that. But nobody had done any Brunswickers, so I've decided to do a Brunswick detachment. So the rules we're using, this is the full Brunswick force we used on the table. And it's split up into line, light, avant-garde, cavalry and artillery. And actually, my recollections of the game was pretty cool. So it was a big table, there was a sub-table for the Prussians at Place Noire. And the big table itself had some inlets so you could get into it. And it was about 26 foot. And at its biggest depth was 8 foot long, deep. So you had the reserves coming up, obviously using the Epic Battles rules, so command checks, and you really saw formations starting to move and corps and divisions move into positions and manoeuvring. Honestly, it was a great looking game. So let's have a look at what we've done with the Brunswickers. So primarily I've used French uniforms. There's in this scale, and since I'm painting everything black, I felt, for me, it didn't make that much difference. And I think this represents a Brunswick force really well on the tabletop. So Brunswick is an area of Germany, sort of near Belgium, Holland, sort of that area of Germany. And in the Napoleonic Wars, it had been invaded by France, and a contingent of Brunswickers had sort of fought to the coast to Hanover, got to Britain and formed a contingent of Brunswick troops in the British Army in the Peninsula. And when Napoleon came back for the 100-day campaign, they were able to contribute sort of a combined Brunswick corps, if you will. So when I'm thinking about Epic Battles, I'm thinking that my units on the tabletop represent probably more than a battalion. They probably represent brigades in my mind, especially when I'm fighting massive games like Epic Battles. And that's what I've used as the inspiration for this. So first off, these guys here are my avant-garde, and I've used the French Imperial Guard Marine models for those. Avant-garde were sort of light infantry. I've seen some where they're painted black, I've seen some where they're white. One of the things about Napoleonic uniforms is you can get a variety of sources. But yeah, they represent my avant-garde. And basically all of this stuff was used contrast paint Black Legion. No, Black Templar. Black Legion's much more black. Black Templar. We dry brush, pick out the details, job done. So it was quite a fast command for me to paint up for the battle itself. So that's the avant-garde. Next up I have 2 light units. So what you'll notice here is I have a couple of bases where I've put some skirmishers in the front, and this is so that you can easily see on the tabletop that unit has light infantry rules. One of the house rules that we're using for Epic Battles, when units are in line, because even 4 bases can take up quite a lot of room. When units are in line, we will have 1 base behind, 1 base in front, 2 on the side. So that's how they represent line. So you can look across the battlefield and kind of start seeing what units have what rules. So half the battalions in the Brunswicker command were light, so I've done 2 light units, and then my standard Brunswick units. Now I love that shade of blue for Brunswick. Black's a fairly obviously mundane and almost boring colour scheme for a uniform. But the Brunswickers, they used orange facings, yellow facings, blue facings, red facings, and it really does make the uniforms pop, and the what could be quite a drab uniform really come to light. So next up is I do have a handful of skirmishing stands to represent mixed orders, should I require it. Generally I don't use skirmishes that often. For the British and Allies I prefer the 3 dice firepower, but yes, I do have created some wee skirmishing bases. Now the artillery, I've got 1 battery of artillery, and I've used that lovely blue for the limber colours. Again, I'm not 100% sure if that was the proper colour for the limbers or not, but it looks nice, and that's what counts. Again, I've used French artillery pieces, I believe there. And finally, the cavalry. So when we're using epic battles, we're generally using 3 stands for a cavalry base, and as you can see here I have 2 and 2 stands. So this is on purpose, so I can either use this as 2 small cavalry units with 2 stands each, or what I might do is, if I want to use them as a larger formation, do it like that. The majority is the sort of hussars, so I'd use that as a hussar unit. Again, if I wanted to use the majority as a large lancer unit, I'd probably swap it around like that. Again, it's easy for me to get my head around that because I'm thinking about these representing brigades or larger formations rather than just individual units. So that is a cavalry, and what I've used there is I believe they are French hussars and Prussian lancers. And again, just a sweet dot of paint to bring out the uniform details. Again, that blue and yellow, I love the combination of blue and yellow. Easiest hussars I've ever painted. But as you see, I've even tried doing like the skull and crossbones on the heads. It's just wee details like that I like bringing out in the models. Now, next to Brunswick was Nassau, and I have done a unit of Nassau. So these had quite a contingent in the British force. They used quite large regiments. The Nassau Jaegers helped defend Hougoumont. Most of the Nassau was command over on the British left flank. So at the Great Game, I was facing off against Nassau, so I got to have a respect for these fellas. So French uniforms used green, yellow facings. I always call these grasshoppers. All the time I've played them. Background Waterloo, a wee bit of detail on the backs there. What have I done for? Yeah, by the time I was doing these, I was rushing through it, so I've done very little work on the back. When you're painting masses of epic battles, you've almost got to pick your battles on painting. If you paint all the details, then they're going to take forever, so sometimes you've got to come across some shortcuts. And as you've seen there, those backpacks is a bit of a shortcut I've taken. Now the Nassau units, they're grenadiers, so there's your light infantry there on the flank with the yellow heckles, are they called, on the top of shackles. Obviously pom-poms, heckles, I think they're called heckles. And the grenadier unit had bearskins, so I have taken some Imperial Guard heads, done some head swaps, and obviously not painted the sort of gold bit on the front of the bearskins stand out and really make it a pretty cool looking unit. So there you go, there is what I've done for my Brunswicks. A couple of simple conversions, counts as units there. I think it works pretty well as a Brunswick contingent on the tabletop. If you've done some really interesting similar sort of things, let me know. I've yet to do French. I've done loads of French. I've yet to do Belgians and Dutch allies, and when I get around to doing that, I'll do some videos about those as well. But anyway, I hope you're having a great time at the moment. Thanks for listening. and I look forward to chatting to you again in another video. You have an awesome hobby at the moment, and I'll catch you again. Goodbye.